This is the third of my four-part trip to Yorkshire. This trip is to the city of Durham, which is on the east side of Yorkshire, about 130 kilometres or 82 miles south of the Scottish border, or just 12 minutes by local train from Newcastle upon Tyne. My niece is moving to England in October to study in Durham for 1 year, so I came up here to see what the city is like. Durham has been inhabited for at least 4,000 years, although the city as it is now dates back to 995 AD, when the site of the cathedral first became a church. The name Durham comes from the Old English word for hill, dun, and the Norse for island, home. Durham is a small city with a population of only 50,000, which means it's significantly smaller than the town I live in. It has a lively city centre considering its size. The city of Newcastle is close by, and that provides all the entertainment and other functions of a major city. The student population is over 22,000, and so they have a major impact on the city. I spoke to a few university students and they all enjoyed being there.
Why is Durham Castle here? It's a very good question. I usually take us back to the date 1066. This is our Battle of Hastings. William the Conqueror wins this battle and he becomes King of England. Very watered down, quick version of history, but it works for right now. William, though, he has a difficult time trying to convince the north of the country that he is now king. He puts a lot of earls in place, earls of Northumbria, in positions, and they mysteriously keep getting killed, to the point that William has enough of this and he comes up north with a great big army, destroys the landscape, kills a whole load of people in a very grim period of history called the Harrying of the North. About 100,000 people die of starvation alone during this time. It's truly very awful. From that point onwards, William then puts in place a man called William Walcher to be the very first Prince Bishop of Durham, to make sure that the north of England recognised him as king after the Harrying of the North. So William Walcher in 1072 is brought to Durham and he becomes Prince Bishop of Durham. And this would be a role that lasts almost 800 years. This Prince Bishop then needed to be protected from further assassination attempts, which were sometimes successful, and this is where our first castle comes into play in the 1070s. This is where the castle starts being built. It is a fort, a fortress more than anything at this time, at this early stage. It's to protect our Prince Bishop and to protect the king's interests in the north. So what does a fort usually have? Usually has things protecting it. So where we're standing right now, this is the Barbican. There used to be a great big moat where we're standing. It was about 6 meters deep. It was dry, so there was no water, but you can imagine some nice pointy sticks in there for extra gnarly effect. There would have been a drawbridge coming over it to meet another gatehouse just where we came through those barriers there. So lots of levels of defence and protection for our Prince Bishop. The Prince Bishops do settle in over the centuries though. They do gain more power, they gain more wealth, and so they become a lot more comfortable with their position here in Durham, to the point that they don't want a fort anymore, they want a palace to reflect their power, to reflect their wealth, because they were likened to be the second king of England. They had a lot of power.
Did they have parallels around the country as well?
So I'm not so sure. This was kind of like the seat.
Okay.
But yeah, they also were able to mint their own coinage. They could hold their own law courts. They could raise their own armies. So big
Lots
role.
of power.
Lots of power. And it took on its last and current role in the 19th century when Durham University was established in 1832. So a little bit after that, this castle became home to students. They're living here, and they still live here and work in here. This is our lovely chapel. This room dates back to the Tudor period, so it was built in the 16th century. Really nice difference between this chapel and the one we've just been in. It's about 500-year difference in what chapels feel and look like. So this gallery was built at the same time as the chapel, under the same time as Tunstall was here. This gallery is a room in its own right. It meant that people had a space to meet together. You can imagine gatherings taking place in here. Tunstall could also exercise in here if the weather was truly awful outside. He could also use this quite literally as a gallery, so collecting objects and showing them off from his lifetime. It also made life a lot more comfortable for people living in the castle. It meant they didn't have to go outside every time they wanted to go inside, because this used to be the front door to this side of the castle. This gallery has also helped in protecting this gorgeous archway above me here. This is a 12th century Norman arch, and as I said, this was the front door to the Great Hall that used to be behind me. It's all been split up into staterooms and things like that now. But having the gallery built over the top of it has protected it from wind and rain and weathering and all that nasty stuff that happens to stone like this. In the 12th century, this was your way in, which you'll recognise is quite high up off the ground. The courtyard is very far below us at this point. This meant there was probably a wooden staircase leading down from it, especially in the early days, to reach the courtyard. I say wooden staircase as this was much more practical in terms of defence. If someone started attacking you and they were getting a bit too close to your inner bailey, you could either pull up the staircase behind you to stop anyone getting into the castle, or you can simply burn the staircase down, and then no one's getting any further into this castle than you want them to, because your front door is so high up. You can start picking people off with bows and arrows and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a real testament to a time when you are concerned about being attacked. you're concerned about defence. And then this gallery is a really good example of a time when that's not a concern anymore. We can have comfort, and we can also show off our wealth and power a bit too in the meantime.
There has been a church at this spot in Durham since 995, originally wooden, then replaced by a stone church. There were 5 Anglo-Saxon bishops before the Normans came in 1066. William the Conqueror gave his bishops additional powers, including raising an army, minting coins and holding court. These additional powers meant that they were called prince-bishops. The cathedral was originally a monastery for Benedictine monks. Construction of the church started in 1093 and finished in 1133, which is very fast for the cathedral of the era. This means that the same architectural style is used throughout. However, there have been 2 additional extensions which were both completed before 1280.
The reason it's elevated is because it was put there by Bishop Thomas Hatfield in the 14th century. I think we have to make a distinction between bishops of the 14th century and bishops of the 21st century. Modern day bishops are in the main men of peace and humility. Hatfield was anything but. He was a powerful, arrogant man. We know that he fought alongside the King Edward III at the Battle of Crecy against the French. So that tells us all we need to know about Hatfield. But Hatfield wanted a bishop's throne, and Hatfield wanted the highest throne in Christendom. To that end, he sent emissaries to Rome to establish the height of the Pope's throne in Rome. They brought back the required information, and he built his throne 1 inch higher than that of the Pope in Rome. That tells us to the choir. This is the choir, spelled Q-U-I-R-E, and this is where when it was a Benedictine monastery, this was where the monks would come 8 times a day to say Mass. And it's still a part of the cathedral where the clergy come to pray. The congregation in the nave, clergy, and the choir here in the choir stalls. Durham Cathedral, in common with many cathedrals, has a chorister school. We have a cathedral choir, It used to be boys only, but it's boys and has been for many years now, boys and girls, which is great. And they sing here at evensong on a daily basis. Bede, St. Bede is buried here. This is a very modest tomb for a quite remarkable individual. Bede was born locally, we believe somewhere in the northeast of England, around about what is now modern-day Sunderland. He entered monastic life at the age of 7 when he went to St. Peter's Monastery in Sunderland. At the age of 9, he transferred to St. Paul's Monastery in Jarrow, and he stayed there for the remainder of his life. We believe he only left on 2 occasions, once to visit Lindisfarne and once to visit York. He was a monk, but he was a scholar and a writer. He was a great writer. He translated many documents from Latin to Anglo-Saxon. And he wrote the first history of the English Church and People, which was published in 733 and can still be obtained today at Waterstones if you wish to walk in. So he was a monk, he was a scholar, but he was much more than that. He got his monks along the coast to keep details of the times of the incoming and outgoing tides, and he produced tide tables for this region. He wrote extensively, and he wrote about the earth, but he didn't subscribe to the earth being flat or beveled. He talked about it being like a ball, and he talked about temperate zones, cold at the extreme, hot in the middle. This is a man who was living in the 8th century. He even impacts our lives even today. He was instrumental in bringing about the Anno Domini dating system that we use today, and similarly he was instrumental in the calculation of the formula that we still use today for the dating of Easter. So this is a man who had a remarkable impact upon the world, really, even though he lived in the 8th century. I like to refer to Bede as the Stephen Hawking of the 8th century. We must read this together. And remember, in these cloisters, which were finished in his day, John Washington, of Washington in this county, he was the prior of this cathedral church between 1416 and 1446, whose family has won an everlasting name in lands to him unknown. George Washington. This is the County Durham crest, and this is the Washington crest. So the prior of this monastery was an ancestor of your first president.
The level of detail you got in here must have taken forever to make it.
It took a while. There are over 300,000. So it was made a few years ago, and what we did was we invited members of the public to buy a brick. So people will be able to buy a brick for £1. But there's over 300,000 bricks in there.
Wow.
All of the bricks are actually commercially available, so there's nothing that's been changed, shaped, bespoked.
My niece found this video interesting and informative. I'm sure when she is there, she'll find friends to discover the city and surrounding area. If you found this video enjoyable, please click the like button. If you'd like to see more videos from River Rides, also click the subscribe and bell buttons. Have a great week.